For the first time, we have a Fantastic Four movie under the same MCU umbrella as the rest of Marvel Studios. And with it, we have a fresh cast and a reset storyline. Will this movie prove to be fantastic, or will the decline of Marvel continue? Before we start, I look to be spoiler free with the review as much as I can. The line for me generally is if the information is already out and known before the movie is released, I assume that to be fair game. For instance, Marvel has already announced the next couple movies that will be released, and I will talk about where I think this goes, but in a way that doesn't discuss the plot of the movie. The baddie for this movie was teased at the end of Thunderbolts. I'll talk about the character in generalities, but not specifics. If you want to go in blind, I welcome you back after you have seen the movie, but for the rest of you, it's clobbering time. Fantastic Four has an interesting history in movies. The film rights were bought by Constantine, and then they had to put together an unreleasable slapdash abomination from Roger Corman to keep the rights. Eventually, it was licensed to Fox, where they went on to release 3 movies over 2 different versions. The first 2, starring Jessica Alba and Chris Evans, were meh, but, perfectly enjoyable early 2000s superhero fare. Both were out before Iron Man was released. And in Marvel movies, that is the line of demarcation. So Marvel goes on to have one of the greatest runs in movie history, while all the most important characters are tied to different studios. Fox has X-Men and Fantastic Four, and Sony has Spider-Man. 10 years ago, we got Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, which really put the nail in the coffin for the characters. It was a legendary bomb as the director Billy Walsh Too Close to the Sun, and effectively the whole reboot was dead before the movie was even done being filmed. In the end, Fox was acquired by Disney, and now, finally, the Fantastic Four would be an MCU movie. Fantastic Four can never catch any breaks, though, because Marvel has never been lower than it is right now, with a string of movies that have underperformed and a fire hose of Disney Plus shows that have made Marvel feel like homework. The message has reached the very top with this one. Prior to the release of Fantastic Four, Marvel head Kevin Feige said, "We always were planning, even before that became a talking point, to introduce them in their own world, in which they are the only heroes. It is a no homework required movie. It literally is not connected to anything we've made before." Did they make the homework-free movie they promised? Yes. Did they make a classic Marvel movie and break away from the quantity over quality problem they had found themselves in? No, I'm afraid it's more of the same. Let's start with the cast and the writing, because I feel that these two work in tandem for the critique. Overall, I love the chemistry between all the actors, but there were a few things that stood in the way of them being a Fantastic Four. The good first, Vanessa Kirby is pitch perfect for Sue Storm, and I really enjoy Joseph Quinn as Johnny, which was a pleasant surprise since I would have had the most questions about them going in. Pedro Pascal and Eva Moss-Bachrach are great actors, but I think they are both let down in very particular ways. First, Reed Richards, the character, is the most intelligent character in Marvel, at the very least, top 3 on any list. I didn't feel that here. I felt that the character trait every time I'd seen Doctor Strange, but not with Reed Richards. Iron Man and the classic quote which lives on about Tony Stark built this in a cave, but never do we have the same respect for the intellect of Mr. Fantastic. What's interesting is it is such a great example of the subtext that you give to characters to fill out the world that was missing here. They showed examples of brilliance. I mean, all the tech he was working with, how quickly he can accomplish something complicated, but it's not there in the words that are not being said. Marvel has been off that for a while, but usually you had history or Easter egg type moments that were worked like traditional subtext because it elicits a response from the viewer. To reiterate, I like Pedro Pascal. I think he does a good job acting in this. I just don't think Reed Richards was written with the same love as other Marvel tentpole characters. And if it hit like Spider-Man or Iron Man or Captain America or Black Panther, this movie would be loved like all the ones I named. Which brings us to Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing. I'm a fan. I really appreciate what he gives as a performer. I don't understand what we are gaining having him be the Thing. I mean, Vin Diesel as Groot. That's perfect because Vin is a name. He doesn't need to do anything other than the voice. It doesn't push his ability as an actor. Have a Vin Diesel-like actor play the Thing. Ebon's real face, what he does with it, the humanity he brings to the projects he is a part of. That's what he's really good at. And you throw it all away on a CGI character that merely recreates it based on data points. Now, I don't know. Maybe the Thing is Ebon Moss-Bachrach's favorite superhero, and this is the only one he would do. Maybe he needs to buy a house and had his agent take any job that would pay him. Maybe he really wants to become friends with Pedro Pascal. Whatever it is, go with my blessing. But it's somewhere deep within Marvel HQ, they were kicking around actors to cast for the Fantastic Four and thought this would be the best use of Ebon's talent. Please stop talking in meetings. I understand the desire to keep the characters authentic to the original design, but the thing about the Thing is that he was designed to be enjoyed in 2 dimensions, and I think now that we've added depth, the look could have been updated so he looks less like a dried up Mo Howard. I understand tradition, but every actor who has played a member of the Fantastic Four has been a little bit different from the source material. So I think we can contour these brows just a bit. They had Vanessa Kirby looking good in this movie, and the hairstyling was incredible. But at the same time, poor Joseph Quinn, on the other hand, having one of the most unfortunate hair decisions in recent movie history. I honestly had moments watching this movie where I thought specifically, Joe is doing a really good job despite this incredibly distracting choice. So we end up here. Vanessa Kirby is great, no notes. Pedro Pascal is good, but not given enough to work with. Ebon Moss-Bachrach is having his greatest gifts taken from him, and Joseph Quinn is bringing it while looking like a page boy. Which brings us to the same problem with every Marvel movie. Who do I blame? This movie is a massive property, and so many people who aren't filmmakers make decisions that other people need to overcome. So the movie can be cast perfectly, but we don't have a finished script. So we're going to fix the first act and reshoots. Now your cast looks worse for the decision instead of a dozen Ivy League C-suite executives who are trying to hit a day on the calendar. The reason this feeling is percolating is because there are things that have just become expected now in Marvel movies. For instance, the worst thing that this movie had going for it was before it even started, the fact that I saw a trailer for the new Avatar movie and I watched knowing that every pixel would be perfect because Jim Cameron has his name on it. Then we are launched into the world of Marvel, where I'm constantly wondering, why does this expensive movie look like it doesn't have enough money to do special effects? This is not to cast blame on hundreds of talented VFX artists who work on these movies, either, because I'm aware the studios push for more and more for less and less. Threaten small VFX houses if they don't lower the cost to levels that make producing quality work impossible. VFX for a while now has been, don't ask how the sausage gets made. But whatever is happening is not equaling better movies. So maybe come up with a better approach. Because right now, I'm clocking questionable CGI moments without trying at least 20 times a movie. And those moments just feel like typos. Like, it just drives you butts. Can I ask a question without being dumb? How tall is Galactus? Because this movie would have me believe that he's anywhere between 50 to 5,000 feet tall. And I don't understand, unless he's doing Ant-Man stuff when I'm not looking. While we are on this, can we please find someone to cause mischief while Galactus is eating worlds? Because he's not active, he's not charismatic, and at the very least, I think we can have Paul Walter Hauser cause some mayhem at the worst possible time for the team. Quick note, Paul Walter Hauser is my favorite thing in this movie. When it's all said and done, Fantastic Four looks more like the Marvel movies that didn't finish scripts, chose to fix things in reshoots, and made decisions that hamstrung the creatives you hire to make the thing. Which is disappointing because this is supposed to be the start of a brand new day in Marvel, and instead it feels like a slightly better version of the stuff that no one was crazy for. While I can appreciate a homework-free experience, I don't think 35 to 40 minutes of straight exposition to start the movie was what I needed either, and I don't think a supercut of out-of-context fights makes up for the fact that there really isn't much action to speak of across the whole movie compared to other Marvel movies. So what does this mean going forward? I'm not sure, to be honest. It seems like Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to have a lot of heavy lifting to do, setting up the world for Avengers Doomsday, since the Fantastic Four are on a separate timeline. It would surely involve some interdimensional travel, while having an endgame, pun slightly intended, to strive for might help Marvel as they close out this phase of the MCU. I'm still worried that the way this is being constructed from on high has become untenable. When Feige and company only had a handful of balls in the air, it seemed genius to have a central control over the property and farm out assignments and use the collective works to build to the dramatic conclusions. Now it's completely unmanageable, and all the tricks that they were using before don't work the same. Kevin Feige has admitted himself that there has a quantity over quality issue that has become a problem for a while, and at the same time saying that Fantastic Four is a return to form. While it is better than recent Marvel movies, it falls short of the bar that was the pre-Avengers introduction movie. The CGI has become apathetic. The character development is predicated on having watched multiple series, and most importantly, they don't know what the story is before they start shooting. Rebecca Romijn was asked at Comic-Con if she's done filming for Doomsday, and she said they are still working on the script. For a long time, Marvel has been going in half-baked with a script and see how it goes and adjust the movie with rounds of reshoots. It loses its soul when you do this, because there is something special that happens when you are on the movie set and the creativity that comes from the finished script. There is a chance we might have to do reshoots for some reason, but it's never the exact same energy that you had during principal photography. There is a reason no one has built a railway business that lays down the tracks while the engines are moving. Marvel can spend money to make things look exactly the same, but it will never truly be the same. I should have sent out a Silver Surfer to warn you of the leaderboard. I know this review probably sounds more negative than it really is, a problem when I try and avoid the plot, but I did enjoy myself during Fantastic Four. I have been fascinated with the characters for most of my life, and I care. I know there are people all over Marvel who care as well, but unfortunately there have been determinations made about the content that keeps everyone from doing the best job they possibly can. I believe that Fantastic Four is the first step in a course correction, but it might not seem like enough given how far in the field they have gone. If I had to give Fantastic Four First Steps a score, I would give it a 7.4 out of 10. I enjoyed the world. I thought it was nice to be on this island all on our own for a little while and enjoy the touches in front of and behind the camera, which gave it the 60s feel without being a trope. And I do believe that all four leads gave everything they had to the movie, but were not all given the best opportunity to succeed. There will be plenty more of Mr. Fantastic and his family moving forward, so I wonder if they can find ways to make it work better with some big moments close on the horizon. I had more fun with this over something like Thunderbolts, but still falls on the bottom half of the MCU in terms of quality overall. Thank you so much for watching. I did another episode of Roadshow last week where I went to a local film festival. Check that if you haven't already. And if you can't get enough of superheroes, I have the review for Superman right here. Thank you so much for tuning in.